You ready to go, Linda, from your end?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Allendale Land Use Board at which formal action will be taken on the items listed on the agenda and upon any other matters which may properly come before the Land Use Board. The requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied through posting on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and the borough website and by publication in the record on January 31st, 2022, with copies being sent to the Ridgewood News. Certain agenda items will be open to the public for comment or testimony, and the board will advise the public when such matters are open for their comment or testimony. Okay, if you join me in a stand to pledge the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. All right, no administrative matters. We took care of those on Monday. So we'll go right to the public hearings. And the first is an application file Land Use Board 2022-06, Minoris Regenerative Medicine, 75 Commerce Drive, Block 702, Lot 17. And it's a preliminary and final minor site plan review to install various entrances and exits on the existing building and construct a cold storage and waste holding enclosure and some other HVAC and roll up doors and some other things as well. I'm sure you'll get into. So I'll leave it at that.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Bardo, the firm Wells-Dorsey & Newton on behalf of the applicant, Minoris Regenerative Medicine. Minoris is an existing property, an existing tenant at property located at 75 Commerce Drive, which is also known as Block 702, Lot 17, within the EM Mixed Industrial and Low and Moderate Income Zone District, where such uses as office, warehousing, and laboratories are permitted use. The applicant Minoris creates life-saving cell and gene therapies, and they're now expanding some of their operations. They've actually been at the current location, current property since 2019, but they've been members of the Allendale community for over 20 years at the Pearl Street location. The property is owned by LPR Allendale, and it presently maintains a 1- and 2-story office, warehouse, laboratory building with 3 tenants presently: Minoris, Telemetrics, and Edgewell. The applicant today is seeking amended preliminary and final site plan approval to install a cold storage and waste storage enclosure, some HVAC equipment, and as mentioned, some building entrances, along with some other site improvements, which we will get into. There are a few existing nonconformities on the site relating to parking number size, parking stall size, and a front yard setback. But the application proposal is not generating any additional variance relief with this application. So today I have with me Mr. Michael Maroney of Genesis, who will be providing some architectural information, Mr. Andrew Missy from LaPaca Associates to be providing some engineering testimony, and I also have with me, if there are any operational questions, Mr. Constantinos Rodriguez from Minoris, who is the Director of Facilities and Engineering. So unless the board has any questions at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Maroney.
Just Chris, any notice requirements on this?
Yes, I've reviewed the notices back in my office and they were all printed out properly, so we have jurisdiction to hear this hearing tonight.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Maroney?
You're getting
Okay, okay. So you're all Italian. Could you please give the board
You
the
wanna swear?
benefit
Yeah.
of your background?
We'll just,
registry?
can we just swear
Oh,
the witness first?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application? I do. And name and address, please.
Michael Marty, 824 North Lafayette Avenue, Yardley, PA, 19067.
Can you spell your last name?
MAROA.
You can sit if you'd like, or you can stand either way.
Good. That was a long ride.
Yeah, you said PA, so yeah, okay, get it.
Sorry, sir, just as long as you can speak into the microphone.
That can be moved.
When we move the speaker over.
Maybe a little sticky on the
Might be
bottom.
seated.
Yeah. Good, how's that? Perfect.
Mr. Rory, could you please give the board the benefit of your background and experiences and licenses?
Sure. I am licensed in 12 states, PA, New Jersey, the closest, 22 years as an architect. 15 of them have been in the life sciences field, which is what ours is providing. I am VP of Architecture for Genesis. I am the architect of record for the project.
And have you ever appeared before a board in New Jersey?
No,
And have you ever been accepted as an expert in the field? And I would like to offer Mr. Maroney as an expert in the field of architecture.
Okay, we'll accept.
Thank you. Mr. Maroney, could you please review what your duties and responsibilities were with respect to this application?
Sure. The drawings were prepared under my watch. The team reported directly to me, and I was involved from the concept phase of the project through to signing and sealing.
Is it possible to put the elevations of the architectural plans? This was made part of the application, but I can mark it as exhibit 1. Convenience, the elevations, the second one, I'm sorry.
Second, this one.
Yeah,
Third?
yes, that
Okay.
one. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Marty, could you please describe some of the improvements on the site with respect to building as well as just the site generally?
Yeah, two-story building. We're expanding the interior tenant fit out for Menards. It has a series on the backside of notched in loading, and on the front, various entrances for the tenants. I don't remember exactly how many were, but those glass facades on the second elevation, or I'm sorry, top elevation begin to show where the entrances are. On the back is where the notched are. And the bottom ones are our solution for the cold room.
Just, I don't have to go over there, but can you
Sure.
just identify for the
Sure.
board
Sure.
the proposal?
No, just talk loudly. Hopefully these may pick you up, the ones on the dais.
So on the front elevation, we have a new employee entrance. On the back elevation, another new employee entrance, and then a new entrance in for the people coming to the waste dock so that they can get into the building. And then this, it's hard to see in flat, but those are recessed, and this now comes out to the flush base of the existing building. And then we're adding a couple new.
Is that, would you say that the extent
That's,
of
I'm
the,
sorry, new stairs that come out from both of those two.
just these minor modifications?
Yes.
Don't have any further questions of this witness. It really is simple addition and modification here, so there's not much with respect to the building, but I will have some site testimony from our engineer as well.
Genesis is a current tenant in the middle part of the building. The two end pieces are separate companies.
Menards is.
Menards, I'm sorry.
No, they're from the plan left over. to the right.
So they own all the way out to the end, is that right?
Yes.
Different corporate name there? I thought I saw a different name. I drove up or drove around
I'm
the
sorry,
property.
we bring up the plan. Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. This is Menards and.
Yeah. Two separate tenants, not associated with Menards.
Correct.
That was my point, okay. And you're expanding a bit towards the right of that diagram, I guess,
Expanding
right?
this way over.
Right, okay. So that property opened up, or that part of the building opened up and you're moving over to it.
Taking some additional space in the building.
Okay. And you're putting a new entrance to the, again, to the right, which is almost right next door to the main entrance, that atrium type of way. What's the purpose of the second entrance?
It's controlled employee entrance, separated. So
Okay.
in these kinds of facilities, separating the traffic for the technical staff versus office staff and then
Visitors, okay. Thank you. I was curious about that.
Yeah, no, it's very, these sites are usually very controlled because of the technology.
All right, okay. In the back, the cold storage, I guess, is some sort of, again, you have cold storage now?
They do, it's expansion of.
Of
their-
that
their
part of it.
capability. Yeah, they're expanding how much they can produce. So now there's more warehouse storage required, both cold and ambient.
Okay. And the waste, is that like a separate walled off area? So when your waste contractor comes?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
I'm
hard-
assuming it's biohazardous or not?
it could be a mix, probably some small hazardous materials.
Okay.
But in these kinds of facilities, you don't want all your materials coming into and leaving from the same dock.
Right,
Kind of
yeah.
separate. It's
Okay.
Kind of a clean and dirty.
Okay. And the existing liquid nitrogen tank, is that Menards currently?
Yes.
It is.
That is Menards.
Okay, okay, and I noticed it's ballarded off, it's fenced and it's fenced, so it, that part is fine, I was just wondering who was using it, okay. All right, any other questions or board members have questions? Not seeing any, I'll just, before you dismiss this witness, I'll open up to the public. Any members of the public have questions on the testimony you just heard? That's essentially all you can do is question the witness. Not seeing any, I'll bring it back to the board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call Mr. Missy of Wapaka Associates.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Right. You swear to affirm or tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application?
Yes, I do.
All right, name and address for the record.
Andrew Missy, excuse me, Missey. Business address is 12 Route 17 North, in Paramus. Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, 39 years of experience, the last 35 of which have been in Bergen County. I've appeared before this board in the past, most recently for this project site in 2019 for Hitachi Chemical at that time. In 2018 for Toshiba's tenant space at 40 Borough Line. Other Allendale appearances have been sites within this industrial park, the jumping gym across the street, Restaurant L, and some limited residential over the years.
And are all of your licenses still in good standing as of today?
They are, yes.
I'd like to offer Mr. Missy as an expert.
Will accept.
Thank you. Okay. Could you please just review what your duties and responsibilities were with respect to this application?
Yes, very briefly, when we were contacted by Menards, it was apparent that a survey update was necessary because the work from 2019 to put in the mechanical equipment that was just mentioned had been installed. So we documented those conditions. And from that point, worked with Genesis to develop the plans for the additional entrance at the front. Very limited work in the front. It consists primarily of the sidewalk from an existing sidewalk. But it's necessary. And then work in the back to accommodate the infill and also a new exit and the stair system at the back. Our plans also included the removal of 2 trees, one in front, one in back for these new entries or exits, and the addition of 3 additional trees to make up for the removal of 2 in the back, 1 in the front. The one in the front will be a birch, same as what's being removed. 2 in the back are the more upright trees because of that location.
Can we, please put the, site, no, the site plan.
Survey, this is the second.
Each one.
Page 1 of 2.
Not, we have it on,
We do have it on
on
board.
board.
Oh, it's up, it's coming.
Trying to make it somewhat visible for us. Okay. Trying to-
Do we turn the TV this way?
Physically turn the TV.
There we go.
I'll look at it. Modern technology.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect, thanks. So, Mr. Massey, can you please review the existing site, and discuss the configuration, any contours, any other adjacencies that are important to note for the board?
I think the most important thing to know is that this is a 8.9 acre site with a 117,458 square foot building on it. There are 3 tenants. The tenant to the north is Edgewell. They have been at this location since the first CO was issued. There's the Monera space, and then Telemetrics has been at this location for a number of years. They moved from Clifton to this location. There are 305 to 310 parking spaces surrounding the building, depending on which tenant needs which space. The spaces are distributed as 165 in the front or the easterly side. There are 38 on the south side. Those are almost always not used. And there were 102 spaces at the rear or the west side. Those are seldom used. In total, there are 305 spots right now. There are 3 existing nonconformities from the EM zone standards, as Ms. Berardo mentioned, and those continue to be in place. The 305 spaces doesn't conform with the code requirement of 383. In 2019, when we were before you as Tachi, the site had 308 parking spaces. And the code requirement at that time, because there was more office in the building, was 403 spaces. So that's situations actually getting better numerically. It's a technical issue. And then lastly, the front yard. There are wetlands and wooded areas to the south and west, and often and sometimes pretty year round, you would probably see a deer or 2 on quiet days at this location.
Can you just describe how the proposed additions would affect the zoning?
With the infill, that has the impact of increasing the square footage of the building, what's inside the walls by 460 square feet. There's no loss of parking spaces with these entries or the infill. And Moneris retains its loading and delivery operations at the other dock. So that there's no detriment to their delivery ability to receive deliveries.
So with this addition, does the plan remain compliant with regard to impervious coverage?
It does. The impervious coverage goes from 57% now to 57.1%. It's de minimis in a zone which has a code limit of 75%.
And then can you just generally describe the landscaping? You mentioned that there were some trees that were being removed.
The landscaping primarily consists of accent trees or the ornamental trees that are common in office parks, and then foundation plantings along the front of the facade. The rear landscaping consists primarily of lawn areas between the loading areas or the loading docks and the entries, with the woods and the wetlands forming the balance of the landscaping on the site, the areas that were left in their natural state.
And with this addition, the small addition, do you have any site plan concerns with regard to drainage or stormwater,
No, there's
parking?
no impact of any importance to remark.
Thank you. That's all I have for this witness.
Mike, you have comments?
Yeah, I didn't prepare a report, but I did go out and visit the site. I did have a brief conversation with the applicant's engineer, advising him that I didn't prepare a formal report, but I mean, I guess the only, and the scope of the improvements are relatively benign and minor, but the fact that they filed a site plan application, gives us the ability to take a look at the site for compliance with certain requirements. And the only comment that I would have would be to take this as an opportunity to retrofit the storm inlet grates out there so that they're compliant. Currently, the inlets out there are the type inlets with base pieces, and there's a requirement that they have to be retrofitted with a certain size grate on. We'll give it to keep leaves and photos. That's really the only comment that I have.
Thank you. Is the applicant willing to?
I believe the applicant would be willing to make those modifications. I just note that this is a very small, minor modification to the building that will not be affecting the drainage at all negatively, but Menaris has been a part of the community for a long time, and I believe that the applicant is willing to make the modification.
Good.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Flooding is an issue in this town, and it's pretty of concern to the board, so we thank you for that stipulation. Just a couple of questions on, you building some new entrances in the back as well with stairs?
Yes,
Is that again to separate? I wouldn't think you'd have visitors in the back, but what's the purpose for the new staircase or whatever? Is that
that
to
space was
access a certain part of the
previously
building?
used by Edgewell.
Ah,
And
okay,
so that's where the demising wall is between Edgewell to the north and Menaris to the south. And right now it's loading dock, and
Right.
for Menaris's needs, that doesn't need to be a loading dock.
okay.
The stairs are what's needed.
Thank you for that explanation. I guess there's a construction trailer out there that'll eventually go away.
Yes, there's
When the
several.
construction goes away.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Any other members of the board have questions on, from the engineer? Silent group tonight, wow. We're so silent Monday. Different application. Any members of the public wish to be heard or wish to question what this witness has stated? Around, not seeing any, I'll bring it back to the board. Okay.
Unless the board has any operational questions from Menaris as to their facilities, I have no further testimony, and I just respectfully request a favorable vote from the board, and I thank you very much for your time and thoughtful comments.
Guess the only question I had is, what exactly do they do?
I can certainly bring up Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, everybody. My name is,
We'll just swear you first.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth
I
through the
do.
course of this application? Thank you.
so my name is Constantino Rodriguez. I'm the Director of Facilities and Engineering at Menaris Regenerative Medicine. So what we do this is an organization known as CDMO, a contractor for development and manufacturing organization. We basically provide development and manufacturing services to biotechnology companies that own proprietary technology, in this case, all related with genetically modified processes. So what we do in our facilities are, these clients have some idea, or they may have already developed a basic process. We do develop here, scale it up, and going through the processes of approval by agencies like the FDA or European agencies. We get an arrangement eventually to manufacture here for commercial purposes here. Minaris specifically works in cell therapy. So we directly work with patients who need these cures, right? These solutions. And every single batch that we produce is dedicated to one person at a time. That's why the reason why we're expanding, because our business is growing and we getting more requests of this type of services. That's what it's happening.
Thank you.
How many employees are there?
Out of us, this moment, the total between the two buildings that we have, the Fort Pearl and now 75, we're around 220 or 240 persons, I think the last count. We plan with this to grow up to 300 or so, but this is between the two facilities, just to clarify. Yes.
And you have 307 parking spots?
In this side, in 75. The total.
Oh,
what I
so you're
mentioned
talking
is
about
between
it
the
in
two.
another building
Yes,
as well?
we have
Okay,
another.
gotcha. Yeah, and visitors? Do you have many visitors?
Not really. I mean, the total visitors that we see between normal service person, contractor that comes to
Right.
service equipment, and perhaps a visitor to our facility goes in the 6 to 10 or 12 persons a day, right? It's not, and through the day, right?
Right,
Not all
staggered.
at the same time. It's not a low. Mostly, we plan sometimes with clients when they come and visit us, but it's average that number that we register.
And your deliveries are UPS,
We have different type. Precisely the reason of the cold box in the back is most of what we do is what is called cold chain. So it's low temperatures. So some of our deliveries come in these special refrigerated trucks. Some are your UPS, your FedEx, and some others that just brought raw materials with our dry raw materials. But a lot has to do with cold chain and or bring containers, right, with that type of systems. Yeah.
Thank you. Many members of the board have any questions? More questions?
Question.
Sure, go ahead.
So with the infill, with the cold storage, are you taking any deliveries to that location with the new infill there?
So we
Cold storage in the waste, because now you're taking the recessed area and pushing it out, so we could potentially block the traffic aisle. Bigger truck. backing up to that space.
we have the other loading dock with this, but really we receive. So we have other loading docks for larger trucks, right? The majority of the trucks that we'll be receiving here are for the small cold chain, right, supplies, and for picking up the waste. That's the intention of that loading dock.
How frequently does that occur?
So the cold chain, the cold materials will come at least twice a week or twice a week, more or less, right? The waste, as of currently, we have pickups on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, right? So we expect to see that just because as we increase the volume, right, with new rooms, will increase also the volume of waste. That's the reason why we're expanding also have that dedicated waste for space.
The smaller delivery type trucks that.
The smaller deliveries, yes.
Okay, other members of the board?
Just this, Michael, this borders the celery farm. Okay, the only concern I have is whatever construction, that there's, all the proper remedies are put in there, that there's no negative effect onto the celery farm.
Certainly.
Okay, that's my only comment.
Yeah, we actually fenced all the space behind the construction. Our construction firm under Genesis has done a fantastic job
Yes.
of maintaining, cleaning all the spaces behind. That's our request from Ignaris to do that.
No, it's been good. Thank you. Just want to point it out.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman and Mike, in the past history, and I deal with them more as director of operations on a daily basis, more regular than you guys do. And they're terrific.
There you go.
They're terrific response to the community.
There you go.
They don't just come here once a couple of years and say they do stuff. They really do. They actually gave me turkeys before COVID for Thanksgiving for the homeless shelter. That's
We're gonna fill the cold room with that.
not too many commercial guys, go out of way to contact the community.
Sure.
The homeless shelter in Hackensack, you guys, one of the resident tenants actually did a collection of turkeys, I think. Well, that's why I went and know the loaning dock is. So you guys do a good job over there.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
I just wanted to point it out because of the celery farm. That's it.
Yeah.
But I know you've done that, but thank
We're
you.
aware.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. Thanks, Ron.
Any members of the public wish to raise questions on on the testimony? Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So you've summarized your,
Yes, I will reiterate some small minor modifications to the site to allow Menaris to take some additional space and expand their footprint in the building and also their presence in the community. There are some existing nonconformities which shall remain but are not being increased in any way, and this application does not warrant any other additional variance relief. So today we're just seeking amended site plan approval and respectfully request a favorable vote. Thank you.
thank you. We move this for general comment? Okay. All right. Council is advised. I'll open it again to the public for any general comment. It's your chance to pontificate.
Or ask for a turkey, either one.
All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Thanks, Christopher. Okay, we proceed in the normal course.
Yeah, this
Motion
is
to
a
approve,
site plan amendment, and, you know, the only condition I think that would be on a motion for approval would be the comments of
The engineer.
borough engineer to retrofit stormwater grates, as well as, you know, work in the field to control any drainage issues relating to that.
So just to clarify, are we asking that he only does that on his portion? Because he doesn't occupy the entire building on both sides? I mean, where does it stop?
They will do the entire site.
Okay.
Will do the entire site.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All
I
right,
think
thank you.
that there's probably 10 to 15 rates overall, and they will.
Great, thank you. That's appreciated.
For total transparency, Mike's covered, I was supposed to ask you a couple years ago when you read it, and I forgot to. So that's, this kept you guys at the parking lot last time. So that's what we're laughing about. But like I said, they really are very cooperative. I assume they would say yes.
Thank you. So would someone like to raise a motion?
So move, Sariko.
Okay, thank you,
I
Mike.
would make the motion or second the motion.
I'm
whatever
sorry.
you want to see. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
You're seconding, okay. Any discussion on the motion? Not, we'll move to a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Fisher,
Yes.
Board Member Yakarino,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico,
Yes.
Mayor Bernstein,
Yes.
Chairman Quinn,
Yes.
and do we need the alternates for those?
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
You're approved.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you for the presentation. The same. It's rainy tomorrow. All right. The next application, do we have something for the video show or not?
Yeah.
No, okay. We do. Oh, we do? We do. Oh, all right. All right, the next one is Land Use Board 2022-07, Mark and Bridget Adler, 22 Bonnie Way, Block 201, Lot 14. Addition of a new recreation room, office, expanded kitchen, deck, and new pool cabana. And I believe it's a hardship request. We'll find that out momentarily. I'll ask council if the notice and publications are in order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the notices of mailing and the notice of publication. They are in order. We have jurisdiction to proceed and proceed.
All right,
I'm Mary Spro, the architect for the applicant. Plus Architects, 240 West Crescent Ave, Allendale, New Jersey.
All right, will everybody be testifying
Just
or?
in case if you
Yeah,
probably just
swear
a
everybody in.
clause.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application? All right, great.
State the names too.
When they talk.
Okay.
If they
perfect. Okay. We're here tonight for a side yard setback variance on an existing single-family home. Briefly, the addition that we're proposing is a first floor addition to an existing two-story home. The addition will consist of a new front porch off the front of the house, an office off the side of the house, and off the rear, an expanded kitchen and a rec room. The lot, as you will see, is an irregular shaped lot. Can I?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just go to the site. plan. See that it's not a rectilinear lot, the left-hand side of the property angles in, getting more narrow as you go back. The house is set far back from the front yard. The required front yard is 50 feet, and we are at 70 something, 79.1 to the new front porch.
Okay.
So by virtue of us being set far back, we're in a more shallow, a narrow portion of the property. So when we add on to it, with the side yard setbacks, we end up with a non-conforming side yard setback. There's actually side yard setbacks on both sides. The existing right-hand side is a pre-existing non-conformity. That's the 38.07. The proposed setback on the left-hand side is 36.9. However, you will see that it's just two triangular areas. We tried to step the addition in off of the existing left-hand side of the house for the rear portion of the addition to minimize the impact of that side yard setback. The front office goes in 1 square foot, and the back rec room goes in 14 square feet. But that's also in the more narrow section of the property. When you look at all the other zoning regulations for the lot, we are under the proposed floor area ratio and impervious coverage, which I know is important to the board. The proposed cabana that's also part of this project does conform right-hand side in the rear of the property. A couple other things to note in terms of constraints that we were up against when laying out the house, with the driveway off to the right and the pool off to the right rear. So when looking at the property, that left-hand side of the house is the most efficient way of adding onto the house without overbuilding the property. And again, we tried to step things in, keep it to 1 story. Additionally, as part of the project, we'll also be residing the whole house with RE board. So I can also address some of Mr. Breland's comments.
Sure,
Is
why not?
that, or we'll just keep going, is that all right?
Sure,
Or you want
absolutely.
to pause for
No.
questions?
No, we'll ask them, but
Okay.
Fire
This
away.
letter dated March 8th. There were a couple comments in terms of confirming that they will be finished. The project will look similar to the renderings. Yeah, I'll pour down to the renderings so you can see the overall aesthetic of the house. Currently, it's like a yellow vinyl siding you see in the pictures. This is the existing house that you can see, it's like a light yellow or beige color vinyl siding. That rear deck is where the addition will go. And then this is the proposed new front porch, the standing seam roof, white hardboard, some stone accents. Trim work to the left there, you see the addition of the office space. And this is the rear addition with an outdoor patio area that kind of relates to the pool. These outdoor living spaces have, after COVID, been very popular, I'm sure. We're not this.
this is sort of in the white, gray, black
Yes,
that you're seeing everywhere today.
yes, exactly. White is very popular. The
I hope
existing-
it holds up the fashion.
Yes, I think white's pretty timeless. No black windows on this project, though.
Okay,
The-
you see a lot of that too.
Yeah, the exterior landscaping will all remain intact except where the immediate areas of construction. And is the homeowner's intent to install new foundation plantings along the new, maybe not exactly like this rendering, but in keeping with this rendering in terms of putting landscaping back. It looks cool. There's no plans to strip this, to strip all the landscaping out and not replace it. As far as exterior lighting goes, the only exterior lighting that we will be adding is at the front, well, at where it's required by exit doors. They're not really, at the front porch, there'll be some lighting in there that will be kind of reworked to fit the new condition. And there's a door out of the kitchen, so that will have a light. But no flood lighting or anything like that is planned.
Even back by the pool and the cabana?
Yeah, no floodlighting. There will be some lighting in the cabana in that area in terms of.
Is that replacing the cabana or is this a new shed?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a,
So there's a structure there now.
there is a structure. Is it in that same location? There's a structure there now. It's about 100. I think on this, the engineering drawing shows up it's about 100 square feet. So we are expanding that.
Okay, and that'll conform with the side setbacks and all for a accessory
Yes.
structure?
It does. In terms of other comments from Mr. Freeland, the existing roof downspout, we will address that with Paul's engineering in terms of addressing that with there is seepage tanks proposed as part of this project. So we will work with him to make sure that that's addressed.
Yeah, good.
The reason I pointed that one out specifically was because the addition was on that side, the downspout is joined. Foundation. Want to make sure that the ground condition doesn't impact.
Right. We will absolutely make sure that that's addressed. And if the existing sewer, if there's any relocation required of the existing sewer, that will be taken care of.
Most times, sewers in the street in front of the building, but I think in this particular case, maybe on the side. Goes down, tap that point. It's not where you typically have. Easement and sewer.
Yeah, I thought I saw an easement on one of the survey
There
map,
is. on
and
the
that's
left.
all on that left-hand side, right?
Right.
And is that what the easement is?
That's drainage. and sewer.
You'll have a chance to talk when I open
Yeah.
it, but
Correct.
It's the storm drains there. It's the labeled as storm and sanitary easement on the engineering drawings.
okay. But it seems like it's just a storm.
Just wanted to point out that the sanitary was where you normally don't find it.
Okay. And you're pointing that out so it doesn't get compromised?
Pointing out that they take that into consideration with the.
Okay.
We'll make sure that the contractor's aware of that there's a contingency in place for that, so the work needs to be done.
And the addition to the left side, the office space is not going into the easement space.
It's not going into the easement space, there's a little, it clips, the corner gets clipped by the 40-foot side yard setback. So there's 1 square foot of the back corner of that room.
So that's creating your variance, because that's a new variance on the left side.
Yes, that's a new variance on the left side.
And you already have a variance on the right side.
Correct, correct. And we're not touching anything on the right side.
So you know we don't like that.
Creating a new variance.
Yes, correct.
I think that in this case, the situation is that the lot is not a rectilinear lot. We're dealing with the property narrowing as we go back, and then the house is set so far back already that, you know, if we were 10 feet forward, we wouldn't have to be. Well, actually, we would, because we'd have the right-hand side, but we
Right.
would not be requesting that variance on the left-hand side.
If the house is more forward position on the property, yes, that's your point. Okay. And if you change the size of that room, would that alleviate the variance? Plan B, as Joe likes to say.
We did.
Yeah, it's
we-
coming.
Yeah, we
I
did look
figured it
at
was.
that. It didn't fit their needs in terms of what the requirements are in terms of for the spacing for the office and the rec room. So
Well, I mean, I'm still having a hard time understanding why it's a hardship. I mean, we see some properties that are real hardships. People really can't do anything. This is a large house on a large piece of property. I'm really having a hard time trying to justify in my head why they can't make some changes.
we looked at different options. I mean, at one point it was larger and we scaled it back. And we felt that this gave them what they needed in terms of the spacing and the size of the office to address that. Kitchen, we're expanding the existing kitchen straight back. So we didn't want to have to relocate the kitchen. There are certain things in the existing building that we're trying to not have to rework the entire house. We're trying to just add on instead of reconfiguring everything on the. So there's a covered porch on the back too that we're contending with, and roof lines there. So this is where we landed and felt that the irregular shape of the lot and the location of the house.
Yeah, I still don't buy the whole hardship thing. I mean, that's not like it's necessary. It's a convenience. So I'm really having a hard time trying to, in my head, justify that huge addition in the back and granting another variance, so making two variances on both sides. Just because they don't want to make a change.
Yeah, I have a similar concern.
Most people with hardships have no other options. They have options.
A little bit smaller. It'd be-
Yeah, so there were certain things in the office space, it's really just a spacing out of a desk that is the appropriate size and getting around it. In the rec room, there's a desire to have it a large space for a theater and spacing for that and getting the length. We made it as narrow as we could, but in order to get the length.
I mean, I'd like to put things in my house too, but if I don't have the room, I don't have the room.
To reduce the rec room size and probably still keep the size of the office, right? With the setback, because the setbacks.
No, I think we still tip the 40-foot requirement in terms of the multiplier.
Oh, even if you reduce square footage with just the rec
I think
room.
we'd almost have to take the whole rec room out in order to get to the 30, to that dimension.
Without triggering this, the expanded, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
because we're at 6,040 and the I don't have the note, but what the trigger is for the 40 feet. Enhance that side setback.
So how narrow would you have to make it to avoid a variance? You already have almost 18 feet.
In order to bring it in, we have to bring it in about 4 or 5 feet. It's very narrow.
Okay, but it's still 30 feet long. And your office is about the size of a bedroom. You said you just want to put a desk in there, so I don't see why you couldn't shrink that.
We have to narrow it up 4 feet. In the office, we'd have to narrow up about 1.5 feet. covered, they're willing to make the office smaller, so they gave you a variance for the office. But they would like you to consider the length, the variance for the rec room in the back. Because they really would like the length in that space to utilize it the way they want.
What other options are there? Where else could you expand as opposed to doing that?
Um,
You already have a family room, you have a mud room, you couldn't expand that?
Yeah, there's really not, there's not another location because you have the covered deck and the in-ground pool. We don't want to encroach onto the pool too much. With the driveway, we're short of relocating the whole garage, moving it forward. We didn't want to build off the front of the house because we felt that the existing house with the added front porch was a nice improvement to the town, and we felt that by adding off the front would just be too much. If you look at the house to the left does sit more forward, but the house to the right does sit further back. Once you get into that, you're gonna end up tearing up the house.
What about the,
You end up changing so much. We can't really do it all like, the office space can't be a big enough room off to the left. I think the struggle here is that the size of the house is suitable for the lot size. It's just that where the house is located on the lot and the shape of the lot is such that, the method of expanding, really the largest rectangle of space is in the front yard. And we felt that would be more negative to the community rather than the 15 square feet.
We wanted the house to be updated and to. Forget it. Sorry.
Want to swear?
We
did.
We wanted the house to be updated and look nice and still fit within the neighborhood, which is one of the reasons why we chose not to knock the whole structure down. If we had done that, we could have built an even larger house. Purposely designed it this way so the addition is in the back. Stick out in the neighborhood.
My name is Mark Heather. I had the same concerns you had when we originally DHC Plus back about a year ago. That was one of the first things that came up where we just didn't want to go over that line. And so we just tried to keep on staying within that level. As we talked through or designing that room, they said basically that's, without having that space, then you can't do the room that way. When it, there were cutouts or different things. So that was our frustration as well. It's with the aesthetics of the property. This is all going back, so it's not certainly not visible at all. It's asking about, couple square feet. There's still a lot of property. Obviously, on both sides. Appreciate the comments.
oh, and I appreciate your position, the struggle sitting on the board is when you listen to the residents and the neighbors, we go out of our way to try to help the neighbors because most every lot is not conforming. I mean, Mary knows. In your particular case, it's hard to justify giving a variance when it's more or less convenience. Now, I understand what you just said and I appreciate your position, but you have other options. You just don't want to do them. There's people in this town that have no options. And that's why we grant variances. We don't just grant variances because people want what they want. That's not what we do. I mean, you have a third garage. I'm not an architect, but did you think about maybe putting the rec room, reconverting the third garage that's closest off the family room?
Yes, we actually did. Actually, in the entire garage, we talked about even setting like a separate garage, that space as well, the size. But yeah, we came up with was demolishing a house, moving it on the street, and then financing the build-up.
So you're building mostly out to the back, which is appreciated and is not visible from the street. And I guess what we're saying, Mary, is that the amount of building triggers the expanded setback on the left-hand side. And is the office the only place where we encroach on that
The office and the corner of the rec room. So it's.
corner of the rec room?
Yeah, it's 15 square feet total.
So that far back corner, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. See here, this little corner here, it's a little bit bigger back here. There's this little corner and then there's a touch little of the office space here. So those triangles add up to, I'm saying 15 square feet is a hair under that, but
I see that.
yeah,
Dash
this
line.
is the.
Yeah, I see
this is the, yeah. But the first line is the 25-foot easement line and then the second one.
And would it conform without the expanded or not? Just
The
curious.
existing house on the left does conform at today, on the right, it does not conform.
Right. And that's an existing. not
That's an
conforming.
existing one.
Other questions from the board members? Yes, we will.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So how, on that existing nonconformity or the variance part, that rec room, how far away is that from the existing neighbor structure? Because like, I don't see, spatially, how far away are we talking that it's to the
So
neighbor?
the house that sits to the left on
Left.
that side actually sits in front of this corner of this house. So the back of their house, it's about, approximately, I think it's approximately equal to the back of the existing corner of the house. Don't have the,
Yeah, sometimes there is.
a drawing.
See that
That's
drawing.
not in it. No, I don't have that dimensions to go into that neighbor's houses, but they sit much closer to the road on the left-hand side.
So there's no structure or house right to that sidewalk.
Right. At that point, it's their backyard.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering what the neighbor, how close that is to
Right.
the neighbor.
Yeah, so Mary, it's in your, in SK 11. Where's,
Oh, there's in the picture.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, so spatially, maybe you can walk us through. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the back right corner of the house on the left. I think that's probably like the middle of the main part of the house. Like the perception is it looks like it's even in front of the house, but I don't think that's the case. I think that in reality, it's probably in the middle. I don't have that exact view, but Google map of the property to help with this. Because we did look at that before I came, and I believe that the back of that house is either like about the middle or no further than the back of the existing corner of the house.
And that fir tree or evergreen, is that to be removed? Is that going to be? Because if you're putting the office on that side,
The office is set back though. We'd like to try to
let me
keep-
ask,
Yeah,
are
we'd
you
like to
planning
try
to take
keep-
that tree
yeah.
down?
No, that's not the goal, but if for
It
some
may
reason
have to.
had to,
Right.
a tree would be planted. all the landscaping on the side of the house, like between the two properties. will remain. The intent is to touch as little as possible for the landscaping. Obviously, in the front of the house with the front porch, all those shrubs will come out, but new shrubs will be planted in front.
I don't have a problem with the front porch wall.
Front
Assuming
porch
that's
is-
like a little metal roof over that porch.
Yeah, and that fully complies.
This is the existing. Yes. They're gonna go back here. Probably isn't past the end, but- Yeah, I know, the office. part. That's why. that was my- The office in front. With, creating a second variance.
Hey, Mary, your second floor plan, SK5, is that existing or are you redoing the second floor?
There's gonna be some interior like finish upgrades, but all of that is existing. There's no new square footage on the second floor.
So the bonus room and stuff that's already there,
That's already there
could that be used as your office?
for my cats.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, actually, it's the need for the extra living space downstairs personal. So like the bathrooms will be updated, and stuff, but no.
In the rec room, where's the TV going? Is it going on the one near the fireplace? So not. So that's the.
Mike, you have any other comments from your perspective in terms of what we're discussing on the variance?
Yeah, I think certainly one solution. Knock the house down. There.
Right.
But by doing it, exactly. Best interest.
Right. Like, I think the board's concern is more with creating a new variance on the left side versus the existing non-conformity on the right side.
And, you know, the existing lot does take a pretty good angle, you know, on that side from the street line back to the rear lot line. Probably does pinch out in that direction. Where to avoid that encroachment. But that encroachment set behind neighbor's property. It's not,
Or their house line.
I'm sorry, set behind the neighbor's house itself. I believe maybe they have, maybe might be behind those things that were active backyard area. There is a fair amount of landscaping off-grade. What is really creating the variance.
Right, the expansion to the rear.
Right, so those are obviously some things for the board to consider.
Right. I guess I was taken back by the office addition on the front. That's pretty visible and that helps create a variance as well. So,
That does add to the variance, but if
Right.
that was, you know,
They agreed to short.
We'll agree to eliminate the variance.
For that,
office space.
but you still have a variance on the back
You
end,
would
right?
just
Is that
have, it, yeah.
what we're saying?
you can-
Okay.
We'll modify either pulling it forward, we may nudge it up 6 inches, bring it in 6 inches or whatever, just to.
To
make it so that-
reconfigure,
to
right.
Reconfigure that front office, so it doesn't have the variance. But where it's most narrow in the back. That's where it's actually a little harder to take it out. And it has less impact on the street.
Right, but they may have impact on the neighbors, and I will open to the public. There may be some comments.
Yeah, and this is what we usually do, ask the applicants if they can avoid variances. That's why we do this.
Maybe I should open it to the public at this point. Because that seems to be at least the board's debate, and there is a gentleman here, so. You wish to be heard?
Sure.
Would you please come up and identify yourself for the record? And
Mark McCarthy, I live at 32 Bonnie Way. That was my house in the picture that.
okay, so you're the left side,
I'm the
the
left.
neighbor to the left. Okay.
So I'm concerned about a few, what is the, on the, these two, the seepage pits, it's already very wet back there between their house and my house. And if we're gonna put another structure there and more, and we have more runoff,
Mhm.
my swimming pool is kind of off the corner of the house there, the back corner of the new proposed addition. So I'm worried about more runoff from that patio, from that expansion, and I don't know what those seepage pits are. And it's just gonna seep into what's already kind of a mucky area.
Okay.
And then I don't know if they could run the thing, it's just, PVC pipe, run it around behind the swimming pool and put seepage pits back there, which are closer to the woods that run into Crestwood, so it's really not gonna affect anyone. But those seepage pits right near my property line are really concerning, as much as, the expansion. That, my swimming pool is right off the corner of their house in the patio. So there's not that much space. The other question I had was the height of the expansion. That deck is already about 2.5, 3 feet above grade. Why does the expansion need to be that high as opposed to bring it down closer to grade? Why put a crawl space underneath it and whatnot instead of putting it on a slab so it would be less intrusive?
That's a good question. Does the architect have any answers?
As far as the building height, we're keeping that first floor height of the first floor of the house. So we're taking the kitchen, the existing kitchen, and expanding it out. So.
So you're avoiding a step down, is that what
Right,
you're
we're
saying?
trying to use that existing kitchen space and the new space instead of just building an all new kitchen, because if we did that, then we would be building.
This wouldn't affect the kitchen. This is just that record.
Over.
And if you're gonna go, if you want a variance, then now you're putting a higher structure closer to the area you need variance instead of a lower structure. If you see. This side view,
Oh, sorry.
see like, here's the new office, is that right? Yes.
It's a side elevation.
So see, this is all elevated up, 3 feet or so above ground. If they dropped that down and had a rec room with a few steps going into it, like I did with that little room you could see off the thing. And then what is the topsoil stockpile with sediment fence?
That's, you have a certain amount of disturbance on your property. You have to go to the storm control plan. And one of the things that's required on the plan is to show
Where
you
it's
need
gonna be.
stop,
Yeah, it's temporary.
topsoil during the course of
So
construction.
that's only during
That's
construction.
only during construction.
Okay.
Temporary.
So I guess the big concern we have then is in the back corner, right where it gets very swampy, the seepage pit. It's already very wet back there. If they're gonna throw all the water off the roofs back there, I'm gonna have more of a swamp in my backyard. Because it does run down that way. From their property is a little bit higher than mine, and
Okay.
then it runs back to Crestwood in the back there. And then I didn't see anything in the plans, and she didn't mention other than foundation plantings, but if they're gonna put a structure closer to that line, maybe put some bigger plantings along the fence line too to obscure. And, final question. I know they're lawyers. Is this gonna be an office, like a legal office they're gonna use, or is it gonna be like a home office to do some studying in and whatnot? And are we gonna have then visitors
Let's
coming?
ask the applicant.
Visitors coming 24/7?
I'm technically an attorney, but I actually don't practice law. I've never had a client. I've been working in the closet for the past few years for my job. So, but yeah, so there. It's not.
It's not intended to be an office.
Yeah.
A
It's just a
commercial
work-
office, if
sorry,
you will.
A work from home office.
And I- yes.
The office, I don't know, if there's plenty of space up there. It's more the thing, the back door.
So you're concerned about the drainage, it sounds.
That's a big
Most
part
of
of
it.
it, and it's, and a big structure closer to my property line.
Right.
It's like, right, from our swimming pool, we're gonna be looking at right there.
So it's height and drainage. Anything can be done with the drainage, Mike, from,
Well, they provided calculations. Obviously, that assumes that the soil conditions are gonna be acceptable for.
Right,
proposal.
right.
Generally, they don't do soil tests up front.
Right.
That's a requirement. If the board was the variance application, it would need to file. on planning, obviously, so, and that's where the details, drainage would be worked out, soil testing would be done.
But would it be a hardship to put the soil, the seepage sounds like it's gonna seep more into the soil that's already kind of a mess over on my side of the fence. I don't know about their side, but to put it running behind the swimming pool, it's running maybe some
Where-
type of extra.
I'm not in a position where I think I can tell, the applicant where it's has to go, but it may be beneficial for the applicant to hear the request and the amendment to change the location.
There's like a whole backyard there behind the swimming pool that.
and you have an engineering study or an engineering
There
date?
is an engineering, unfortunately, I'm not an engineer, so it's
Right.
hard for me to.
Yeah, it's not
answer
yet.
that. My layman's knowledge of the seepage pit is that the goal is to take the rainwater and hold it, and then
Yeah,
it's a
correct.
holding tank. And that then as the ground dries out, it slowly seeps into the ground. So the goal is to eliminate water on your property. If they do test pit, there's not one there now, so.
Yes, I was
that's
gonna
why-
say, is there one there now?
Right. no,
right,
there's
so
not
you're
one
in-
there now. So-
Putting a seepage pit in, which will, in your opinion, not as an
Yes,
engineer,
not,
improve
in
the
my layman's
situation.
opinion, it will
Well, it
improve.
would improve,
any-
excuse me, it would improve the situation based on the current
Right, the
size of
current
the
house.
But when you add all that extra roof that's gonna collect water, that's a different question. And 500 gallons is not that big an area. I mean, I know when I had stuff put in my backyard for my drains, they dug giant pits, filled them with gravel. It was, thousands and thousands of gallons worth of area, not 500 gallons. It's a big fish.
I mean, they're not increasing the impervious coverage. The way, we usually have them take a look at it, they look at the impervious coverage. So there's 3 inches of rain on top of it.
But it's the impervious coverage right at the wet spot that we're losing.
I can't,
You don't have a
I can't speak. I mean, again, but they haven't done soil.
Right.
I mean, each that they're
But it is a
proposing,
requirement that they can't increase the runoff from their
they have to
property
provide some
onto the
kind of-
neyboring property. That's a state standard.
I mean, they would have to provide some kind of stormwater control. At the end of the day, offset any potential increased runoff. At this point, even at this location, I don't know if this soil condition.
Right, it may not be enough,
It may not
which
be
is the
there.
neighbor's concern.
And, if it turns out that, the conditions out there are being told, the soil not to be acceptable to put this in there. I don't know that.
That one of the things we,
Actually make this better, right?
correct, it
It could actually make it better.
it could,
It
but
could.
it may not be, I think the adequacy is the question. And this is one of the things we normally deal with in variance requests as the ongoing construction and on-site
Right.
engineering. The borough engineer would ensure that it's big enough, substantial enough to capture the water the way
Yeah,
it's
we
supposed to be
usually don't-
captured.
Right, we usually don't get into the, for a variance
Right,
situation.
right.
We usually hear proofs for the variance, and then in the second set of comments, in my review report, I outlined the additional steps that the applicant would have to take to approve it. And in there, we talk about the plot plan, soil movement, and it's generally there. The drainage details are really down.
And it's not a site plan, so we can't do that ahead up in front.
My request would be, if possible, put it behind the swimming pool. It's just running, it goes downhill, so it's basically running more PVC and.
Yeah, piping it to another location and then
in
it
the back there,
seeps
then-
out.
Then that all runs down into the cell, into the woods behind the cell farm and all those culverts and streams down there. As opposed to sloping it over towards my backyard.
Thank you for the comments. Other members of the public? Ma'am, you'd have to identify yourself. I'm so sorry, but that's,
I live at 32 Bonnie Way.
and what was your name again?
Bonnie.
Bonnie McCarthy.
That's
Okay.
convenient.
So the seepage thing, I'm still stuck in there. If this could actually make it better, but we won't know that until after they've already started the construction.
I mean,
When is this done?
most times they will.
It's a good question.
Yeah, most times they'll dig seepage or the test holes for the seepage pit, while they're preparing the site.
Oh, so it would already be under construction
It'll be
before they
under
decide if it's
But if
gonna
it
work or
turns-
not. Okay.
Well, I mean, whether it's size for the conditions that are out there, where it's gonna work. And there've been situations in town in the past where they dug the hole there and the soil.
It fills with water,
Thought
right.
They were gonna be, the hole fills with water, and then when the equipment's out there, they dig additional holes. But very rarely in the past has it been done in advance of the
Right.
actual construction. That's disturbing the property and not the application. Waste, yeah, disturb gateway property, yeah.
And that's why in every resolution of approval, one of the conditions is to work with the borough engineer under his supervision in order to make sure there are no increased runoffs and that they're mandated to the state regulations.
And it's quite possible, I don't know if it will happen or not, but sometimes the seepage pit is proposed and based on the soil conditions out there, the seepage pit doesn't go in, something else goes in. The rest of the runoff. For example, maybe shallow chambers, rainwater or something.
So there are other techniques
There's
that
other
if
techniques,
that's
yes.
deemed to be inadequate, they'll need to have a solution before they get a CO.
And there will be further engineering review of the drawing.
Yes.
Any other members of the public? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other follow-ups from the board? So you hear the board's concerns. Is there something we can do? It sounds as if the neighbor is not all that concerned about the office size because they're up front, but you've got concerns about the height of the addition going to the back. Again, with that property line tapering. And you've got obviously drainage concerns as well, which the board would also have similar concerns, particularly drainage.
Right, in terms of the height, I think it would be more of hint of softening that height with the foundation plantings, because we are trying to align those gutter lines through the back of the house, because there's a deck off of the kitchen area, and if we start dropping that, then you kind of come out onto your deck and you're looking at the roof, and that feels awkward. There's a window there too, with, getting light from that room into there. So I think that we would offer, just providing ample ground covering to kind of mitigate that height visually with foliage. It is single story there. The pitched roof, we tried to face the gable towards the back. So the height is the highest point of the room, of the roof is further away from that side yard. It is a feeling that the aesthetic from the rest of the house. And this is more in keeping aesthetically with the roof lines.
I'll have to reopen it to the public, which I can do. Then I'll reopen it. Come on up again. Identify yourself again. I'm sorry.
Proper parking, 32 Honeywood. In terms of the height though, it's only one story, but there's also a drop off there. So it's probably, I'm guessing 6 feet or so from my backyard to where the extension is. So that raises it another 6 feet on top of the crawl space they put underneath it. So it's almost like a 2-story addition from where I'm sitting.
Okay, so you're lower, is that what?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll bring it back to the board. So you're having some sidebar there.
So
Any proposed solutions
in
for the
terms
board?
of stepping it down, no, I mean, I think that we're still of the stance that we can make that office comply. But in terms of stepping down the whole room for the building height.
In the back.
In the back, and the access off of there was like a couple feet of the existing room that we're trying to get, of the existing house that we're trying to use. So we'd almost have to build, if we were gonna drop the whole thing down, then they'd want the more space deeper, and then the variance would be worse.
Okay. You'd have to go further back, is that what
Right,
you're
you'd
saying?
have to
Then
go
you're,
2 feet back.
then
in
you're
order
hitting
to
more of the
drop.
taper.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we're even worse because it's more now.
How about plantings? What kind of plantings are you willing to put in plantings that would help shield? Because that's something we would insist upon if we were approved.
And it
And it could be like some large arborvitae or something that grows tall relatively quickly.
It's something that is an evergreen plant, so they'll
Right.
stay on year round.
Yes, yeah, non-deciduous. All right, so
Did you look at taking the rec room and putting it, basically moving it down to where the playroom is, so that it would fit within the triangle? I know it's getting.
I'd be pulling it in
Eliminating.
more and eliminating the playroom.
I mean, there's a
Right.
big playroom in the basement, according to your drawing. There's a sitting room, there's a living room, there's a family room. There's a lot of rooms.
And I had a very similar issue on my house. I mean, it's a quarter of the size. I wanted a bigger pantry, but I couldn't
Right.
because
Right.
I had a similar triangular lot.
Maybe eliminate that playroom.
Eliminate the
It
playroom,
it might make sense to slide the whole thing down, then you don't need a variance.
eliminate the playroom, put the bathroom in the playroom.
Bump out, if we put it flush with the sidewall or the playroom and pull it in.
yeah, so I was thinking. Put the air on or off, one or the other. I think that's what they're looking at now. If not, versus paper. I guess we could, council suggested maybe we do a straw poll to see what the board's leanings are at the moment. If you want, I'll go first, unless then they're willing to work with us. I'm very reluctant to grant the variance to the left side unless they do some things as we discussed. Maybe small, the office becomes a little smaller, more enhanced plantings. I just don't like the idea of putting another, you already have a non-conforming. This is a large property. This is a large house on a large property. To then create another variance on the left side without some working with us. That's where I would be. I don't know if others feel the same or not, but please express yourself so
No, I mean, I
the
agree.
applicant gets a sense of where the board is leaning.
No, I agree, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think it's, the applicants were appreciative to lower the size of the office, which is great. That's a good compromise. I'm struggling with, I think there's other things to do. There's a lot of rooms. There's a lot of space. It's a large house. I'm having a hard time justifying the need where other changes can be made. And we've asked other applicants in the past to go back and look at their plan
Right.
and try to avoid the variance. This is not something that we wouldn't normally do.
Thanks, Joe. Any other comments or other people have feelings?
Chairman, I mean, again, it's a beautiful plan, but I agree with you and Joe. We have done that for other residents. When there's no other choice, you guys definitely do a great job working with them. Here there is options. Again, gorgeous plan, it's gonna look beautiful, but there are other things they could do. So I kind of agree with you guys.
Thanks, Ron. Others?
I'm not
Just
gonna see
ex-
that more something with you guys.
Yeah.
Everything said.
I'm in agreement too. It is beautiful. I think maybe there's some tweaks that can be done to make it even better.
Okay.
So,
Others?
less than half. Less than
It seems like the general consensus of the board is that that
polling.
it's,
That's much appreciated.
on the fly and mess something up.
Would you like to consider adjourning for this evening and coming back with other plans?
Or a revised update.
So, I think the issue we're running, if we can eliminate the playroom, relocate the bathroom and pull the rec room in. We're trying not to push it out wider,
Longer.
longer or wide, closer to the side yard. If we pull that in 5 feet, we would minimize the variance. We can eliminate the variance with the office. However, it does look like even coming back those 5 feet, we would still need it's probably a couple square feet that's over in terms of the according to this, it's about 38 feet to the corner instead of the 36.9. But it would be a much smaller sliver. of
When you
space.
say 5 feet, were you talking about 5 feet down or 5
If
feet
we
in?
pulled the back of if we take that whole rec room
And
and
just
slide
pull
it
it towards the
into
front of the house?
into the building 5 feet,
I mean, the playroom's 9 feet. Why
and the
wouldn't you go the
playroom would
whole?
disappear. But the part of the playroom would, when we pull the rec room and the powder room gets lost. So we would relocate that powder room into part of the playroom. So we could
Okay.
pull that in. We could pull that back wall in 5 feet. And then the side yard setback would be 38 feet. And the triangle of space that's over there, much less.
I mean, I think it'd be better for your applicant not to have a variance on that side.
So we're gonna take, if we can, please, if you'd be so kind as to take an adjournment until next month, so that we can figure out some of these details and make sure that if we pull that.
Right,
back
that it
in,
works for you
so
guys.
Eliminate
Right.
that, those left side
I-
yard setbacks.
Mhm.
We still need to come for the right side yard
Correct.
setback.
Right.
So give us a, a month, we'll submit updates.
Okay, no, I was gonna suggest that before you got there, so that would be probably
Probably better.
the logical thing to do rather than try to do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna make
It's
mistakes.
not a simple, it's.
Right.
Yeah, I know,
it's
I know it's not,
moving pieces.
but you understand the board's concern and position and the concerns raised by a neighbor as well. I would try to take all of that into
Yes.
consideration. Next
April 18th.
would have to be the Monday, because we have an extensive one on the Wednesday.
Okay.
And there's no new notice required, no note to notify the public any additionally by mailing or newspaper advertising. And just so the public is aware who's here, that the next meeting for this hearing will be on April 18th, Monday, April 18th.
Which I probably won't be here for, but that's, others will have to.
Will be enough.
And can we maybe put this on first? Linda, because it's a continuance.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Good night, Mr. Chairman. I just need to speak to the residents of 32.
You-
Borough issue.
Go ahead, go ahead.
2 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Mike? Is that next to the other body way property? Oh, this is 73 body way. That's the, okay.
So something else?
Another drainage.
The variance from last month was like on the corner looking at this one, sort of right across.
What's
Yeah.
going on in there?
Yeah, exactly. So this I need to hold over.
There you go.
If you want to collect that, you can. So we don't miss that one. We got one more public hearing once Ron takes care of a little business. Okay. The next, thank you. The next item on the, good night. The next item on the agenda is Land Use Board 2022-08. Peter and Lindsay Doris, 72 Homewood Road. Second floor dormer to include a bathroom and walk-in closet. And I think that was, is that a hardship as well?
Yep.
I'm with 90% of.
It doesn't mean. It doesn't cast a negative light. Guess where I'm coming from. All right. I'll ask council, has notice been properly made?
Yes, I've reviewed the notice and the publication to the newspaper, and they are all in order. So
Okay.
we are ready to proceed.
Okay. All right, I guess we need your name and address for the record and swear them in.
Yes, you raise your right hand, repeat after me. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth throughout the course of this application? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, tell us what you want to do.
Sure, Peter Doris, 72 Homewood Avenue. We are looking to build a shed dormer on the rear of our house to accommodate bathrooms and the closet and an otherwise small area. So this is over the existing footprint of the house. The shed dormer will not exceed the current height of the house, so we
Okay.
will not, we will basically not see it from the front, short of a small bump out on the side. And we are going to be installing, I guess, to the borough's plans to be finished to the existing specification that we have now, just wrapped around. There'll be no additional windows kind of looking out to the neighbor's side. And on that side, if you look at the pictures that you
Right,
see,
we
there are
have that.
large 30-foot shrubberies as well, so it shouldn't even be seen from that. It's also a lower height overall than the neighbor's house as well on the side that we're putting it on.
Okay.
Shouldn't be any impact. We're not digging into foundation or anything else. It's the existing roof bumped up. All the existing landscaping will remain. And we don't plan to put exterior lighting in that part.
Okay. And
The
what
hardship?
what
we're-
triggers the variance?
We are in the undersized lot part of town where we have.
Yeah, I noticed
9,000
you're
square
in
feet.
a, yeah.
You know our
Where where we're supposed to have 20,000, so it ends up triggering left, right, up, down.
Right.
And so that's where we're seeking the hardship variance for, to pop up that dormer.
You are the definition of what I explained in the first, this is a hardship.
Yeah. What's the, so you want, it's a 20,000 square foot requirement, you have what, 11,000? Yeah, okay, so substantially on this side.
Yes.
And I couldn't tell with the new dormer or extension. On your pictures, you have a rear picture. I guess that's an add-on to that little push out that's out there now.
Sorry. That there, just let me-
Yes, I don't think we have it on.
Oh, yeah, it's just that's the back where we bump up that ceiling. There is a slight dormer, I guess, there for another
Right.
bathroom that's right there. And since we have two girls and trying to get two girls in one room that's this big, it's not working out so well. So since we
Now we're
can't.
talking hardship.
They're almost teenagers.
Well, that's another story.
Yeah,
So since we can't actually enlarge the bathroom, make it like one bathroom, the only option is to add additional
okay.
space right there. to do so.
And is that gonna be, will that be visible from the street? I was hard to tell when I sat in front of your house.
No,
and looked.
It's fine. The way it's said, it's, it's all sloped. It's more like a
Right.
1.5 story. The ceilings are only like 7 feet tall. It's like just there. But
Okay,
it should be just sloped below, so you shouldn't even really see it
See it.
from the front of the
yeah,
house.
that's, that's kind of what I thought when I sat and looked at it.
Yeah, maintain the look throughout.
You have the really old world plans here from
That's
Chris
it.
Grimel.
Yeah. Let's go.
Classic.
Chris
It's
is a-
sufficient, there are elevations on the second page there, drawn there. but
Right.
It's such a small square, I think it's just over 150 square feet. It didn't make sense to do full on like,
Right.
ooh, of this. It's gonna have, colonial white siding or whatever that color is they call on it, so. It kind of is what it is.
Mike, any comments?
No.
Thank you for the brevity. It seems like,
I think you're right, Mr. Chairman. I went out with the property and I don't think it's gonna be.
Right.
Trees on the property line and there's no windows on that side. Unless you knew it was there and they're going to look for it, I don't think. we'd do it.
questions from the board? Any members of the public wish to be heard? Dad?
Hey, he's within 200 feet.
He is your neighbor. Order against it.
These people treat me
You have to deal
terrible.
with his granddaughter.
Oh, no. Send the real bosses out.
All right, hearing no comments from the public, I'll bring it back to the board. This really is a hardship and it's a de minimis addition in my mind.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this in my mind, this is the definition of a true hardship, like most properties that we see. And I'm fully in favor of granting the variance.
Okay, would you like to make that motion?
I would like to make
Since
that
we're
motion.
almost there
I will
anyway.
make that motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
We're familiar with all these properties. over there. We know this situation.
All right, so we'll move to a roll call vote, please, Linda.
Who made the second on that?
Sarico.
I made the motion.
Oh, Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Secretary Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Fisher,
With pleasure.
Board Member Yakarino,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico,
Yes.
Mayor Bernstein,
Yes.
and Chairman Frank.
Yes. Okay. You're
All right.
approved.
Should we
There is a caveat.
We'll be memorializing the approval at the April 18th meeting. So the official approval won't be until April 18th. You can start your plans and everything, but no permits will be issued until that time.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good
Have
luck.
fun.
Thank you.
This house is 2 houses away from me. Do I need a permit for a zip line?
I won't look.
Depends on how you build it.
But you said it had daughters. Usually the boys want the zip line, right?
Well, not these days.
That's true. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks so
Good night.
much.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Okay, that gets it removed. Okay, any other members of the public wish to be heard on any matters land use related?
Yeah.
Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. There was a couple of comments from Suzanne and I guess the land use commission or the committee.
Yes. I
And
had it.
I don't know if were you gonna fill us in, Ari?
Sure, I can do it. She had been kind enough to send us,
Yeah, sir, or summation.
right. That was today, huh?
This morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been a long day. Yeah, so it has been a long day, but we had a attorney Chris Botters was there as well. Thank you for all your input on that. We clarified the policy around stream cleaning and confirmed that we align with the state regulation that stream maintenance on private property is the responsibility of the homeowner. We had input from all our professionals there. As we've discussed, and then Councilman Sasso, I think, started this, but now that Councilwoman Lovasolo is chairing that committee, we're reviewing our 5G ordinance that has been drafted for Allendale, and we are shooting to introduce the ordinance in April mayor and council meeting. We are pleased to report that we have added the request to our checklist that applicants before the land use board should also submit their plans electronically. And you all got the survey today. Many thanks to Linda for her help in making this happen. Board members should also let Linda know their preference, which we've done tonight. Tree cutting, right? Yes, so that there is an ordinance that on the books with tree cutting. And we are noticed to the residents to be mindful of it and to heed it. So, in other towns, I know there's that happens in Allendale, happens as well. So nothing to report other than we discussed it. We have an ordinance and we're going to be enforcing it.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Ron?
No, the only thing I do want to add is Mr. Bonner joined us today for the land use committee meeting. And the job that Mike and Chris do up here for us, they did for us this morning. He jokes around, but there were several things borough-wise that I've been dealing with for a couple of years now. And, due to Chris's efforts and Mike's efforts, we got clear, clarification on that. And it's, some residents might not like it, but it's fair to all the residents. And again, I joke around, but both of them are big assets to support it to the borough. They really are very helpful to me.
Yeah, and I do want to second that as the mayor, but and the different committees, et cetera, having the professionals, we as the mayor, the council, et cetera, we give our input, et cetera. But when these are issues that we look to our professionals, and we have been so fortunate, this department, this committee particularly, to have great professionals, and you guys really were shining this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. Shiny. huh?
Ooh. Shine on. Well, thank you for that report. Appreciate it.
Might have just been the glare on the Zoom call.
And I guess the only other matter, and Chris worked on this as well a little bit, was the property at 146 Park where the new house is being built. There was some discussion going back and forth, I guess, by the builder about the town's willingness to vacate the paper street. And I think Chris, though I don't think it's a matter for this board, but Chris weighed in on it basically and said that's a town issue, and I don't think the town has any plan to vacate the paper street.
Chris responded to the.
Hopefully that
the parties today,
cuts that
yes.
off.
Yes.
And I guess the applicant who got approval was kind of, they made some comments that may not have been accurate, and Chris pointed that out. Anybody else have anything else to bring up? If not, then just a reminder, in April, again, 2 meetings, one April 18th, and then the 20th for the continuation. I will probably, I believe I won't be here for the 18th. So we'll be in your capable hands, Michael.
Thank you.
Is there any update on the Park and Ivy?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question for
I'm
Chris.
finishing up our responsive brief. That's going to be submitted by the end of the week. And then April 22nd is the hearing date.
So after our meetings in April.
That's a Friday, right? Is the 20th?
I don't know.
No, the
Yeah.
20th is Wednesday.
Yeah, 20th to Wednesday, because it's a Monday. Okay.
So Chris, I wasn't here on Monday, but neither Councilwoman Lovasolo nor I could participate, but so I missed. And if you could just clarify, we have the 2 meetings, Monday, Wednesday in April. Which of those applications can Councilwoman Lovasolo and I participate in?
Monday.
So
Yeah,
we can
we
participate
moved the
Monday, but
Wednesday
not on
meeting
Wednesday.
To just the continuation of drawing a blank. Maple Street.
Okay, 22 Maple.
Yeah, so you would be eligible to vote at the Monday meeting.
Great, thank you very
You don't have
much.
to be at the Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
Which may be the Adlers coming back is one. And then I think there's one other so far on the schedule.
For
I
the
don't know what it
18th,
is.
the
For
Monday.
18th,
Yep.
yeah. Which we switched from the 20th to the 18th, or we're trying to switch to that date.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else to bring up? Would somebody like to bring up a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is that Tyler?
Wow.
It's quick on that one.
You know, it's been such a great week with you all, and I can't wait to do it again next week.
All right, do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
We have a second, Patty. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I just like it here so much, you don't want to leave. Huh?
I got a little lawsuit waiting for me.